Hi guys, this is John Starrett with Procure SQL. In this video, we're going to go over one of the fundamentals every DBA needs to know. And this is how you can go about benchmarking your SQL Server. Now, benchmarking is critical because it's hard to understand why the server isn't performing well if we don't have good performance metrics to measure against. So it's paramount that we are actually able to constantly have a good benchmark of counters that answer particular questions like, how hard is SQL Server running? How many transactions are actually occurring per second? This allows us to understand some trends of whether we're using extra CPU and looking back to historical points in view to see exactly how this is different from normal performance. Without having a really good continuous benchmark, we're not able to fully understand how our workload is changing. So for this, benchmarking is paramount for a DBA to be able to understand how their workload is changing. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how can I actually capture a benchmark? And Windows Server is great at actually giving you a tool called perfmon that allows you to customly set up groups of counters that you can capture so that way you can look back at these points in time. So we're going to show you in this tip how we can go through the process of automating the process of capturing perfmon data. We're going to go show you how you can actually grab some of the best practice counters inside of SQL Server. And then we're going to tie up and end this video with showing you how you can use the perfmon tool to automate the part of actually managing this perfmon data, including purging the perfmon data. So let's go ahead and jump into the tip. In this tip, we're going to go over how you can get perfmon data from your Windows Server and also your SQL Server instance by using a tool called PAL by Clint Huffman. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go over to Clint's PAL GitHub repository, and we're going to go ahead and make sure that we download the executable here. So here we're going to go over to PAL, and we're going to make sure that we get our setup. So, and we're going to actually want here, we can go ahead here, download the MSI. Now that the download is finished, we're going to go ahead and say run it. We'll let everyone be able to take the benefit of using PAL. All right, now that we have PAL installed, we can actually go through the process of running it to get our perfmon template. So recently added here, you'll see PAL. So, and where we're going to start with PAL here is looking at the threshold files here. So you're going to see here, there's a lot of different systems here where we have perfmon templates. We're actually going to go after SQL Server here. So in this case, I'm actually going to use this for a 2008 R2 instance here. So this is going to get us all of our regular system overview stuff, plus the SQL Server 2008 R2 fun counters as well. So what we're going to end up doing here is say export. And now any server that is Windows 2008 and newer, which hopefully you're on now here in 2020, this is going to do an XML template which we're then going to actually import into perfmon here. So let's go ahead here and we're going to select that. And I'm going to pick here, I'm just going to throw this on my temp folder here on the C drive. And so this pop-up is pretty important now because by default, we're going to assume you have a default instance of SQL Server. Now, if you have a named instance or you have multiple instances, you can put the names of those instances with a semicolon in between them. And what it'll do is it'll get all the SQL Server secret sauce perfmon counters for each instance you would want to monitor. Now, in this case, I just have a default instance, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this blank. Perfmon. And so under data collectors here, we have user defined, and right now I don't have any on this box. So what I'm going to end up doing here is say a new data collection set. You can give this any name. I used to just call it SQL Pal. And we're going to say we want to create this from a template because that's the first step there that we imported our template. So I'm going to go to Browse. And I'm going to go point over to my temp folder where we put this. And now I'm going to grab that SQL Pal template we just created. We're going to click Next. This will allow you to specify where we want these perfmon files to reside. And then we're going to save and close it. So now we've imported our template. Now we can set up automation to allow this to start and stop as we need it. So let's go over to Properties here. And this will give you your directories. I always like to add the server name here and then also give it the month, the day, and year that we started the collection here. All right. Now this is where we can add our schedule here. So I'm going to have this start today, and we'll say let's go ahead and keep this running till 2099, and you're wondering, oh my gosh, this is going to be a ton of files here. It's going to completely fill your drive. Well, I'm going to show you in the next step how we're actually going to automate cleaning up to where we only keep about a month of data on our local disk. All right, so our stop duration for this, I always like to bust out my wonderful calculator, aka my cell phone here, because we want this to run in minutes. And it's going to start at midnight, and we want it to end just right before midnight, so it's going to start again over here. So this is where I like to get out my trusty little cell phone here, calculator, so I can calculate around the minutes here that I need for this thing to stop so I can restart again at midnight here. So what I like to do is, we know there's 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 24 hours in a day, so 60 times 24. And then I'm just going to subtract 5 from it here. So 1, 4, 3, 5. There you go. And then if you want, you can break this up into chunks too. So we could say, break this up into a new file here, I would say every 8 hours. So it's going to run for this duration, but every 8 hours inside of it, it's going to break off and make a new file for you. All right, and make sure we hit OK. Now we're going to go to automating the actual cleanup here. And what a lot of people don't know is there's this feature added called Data Manager here. And this is how we're going to make sure, one, we don't run out of disk space, and two, we actually go ahead and automate cleaning up our data here. So I want to say, always, I never want to run out of disk space, so I'm just going to say there has to be at least a gig left on disk. We're going to delete the oldest. We want to apply this policy before data collector starts. So we're going to purge old before we collect new. And we're going to go over now actions. This is our secret here. This is what's going to help us. We're going to say, let's just keep 30 days worth of data. And I'm going to want to delete everything that we have. So now, as this runs, this will purge anything that's old. I'll apply that. Okay. And there you have it. So in this video, we used PAL to get our perfmon counters, which if you want to dive in and you're wondering, well, what are they? You can see them all in here. We have our system info, disk, memory, processor, processes, and then we have all of our SQL Server perfmon counters in here as well. Now by default, this is going to collect every 15 seconds and keep that data in a binary file here. But now we can let this thing start at midnight and we're good to go. Also, in the next video here, we're going to show you how you can utilize this PAL tool to slice and dice your data and automatically give you some great reporting trends. Come see us in the next video so you can learn how to take your perfmon data and get some actual good results out of it. We'll see you then. This is John Starrett for ProCure SQL. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.